We all know the story of Buddha's birth. Serene, peaceful, a miracle in a garden. But what if I told you that behind that calm facade lay years of heartache, jealousy, and even attempts on his mother's life before he even took his first breath? This isn't just a tale of enlightenment. It's a story of struggle and a mother's incredible resilience. For years, the royal palace of Kapilavastu was filled with joy, but a quiet sadness lingered. King Shuddhodana and his queen Maya were beloved by their people, yet their greatest wish remained unfulfilled: a child. Night after night, the king would look upon his queen with a quiet, shared longing. The passing of time brought only a deeper ache, a silent understanding of their struggle. But then one night something shifted. As Queen Maya lay in a deep slumber, a dream came to her, a vision unlike any other. The heavens parted and a magnificent six-tusked white elephant descended. It held a pure white lotus in its trunk and circled her 3 times, its movements imbued with a sacred grace, before it gently, silently entered her womb. A profound ethereal light emanated from within her, a peaceful glow that filled the entire chamber. She awoke, her body and spirit overflowing with a boundless sense of peace, knowing that something miraculous had occurred. But in the shadows of the palace, a festering resentment grew. The queen's newfound radiance, her visible joy, was an unbearable affront to her jealous sister-in-law, Queen Pamita, who had long harbored a quiet ambition. She saw this miraculous conception not as a blessing, but as a direct threat to her own family's standing and a potential upheaval of the court's hierarchy. This child, she believed, would eclipse her own. Fueled by this bitter envy, she plotted in the dark corridors, her mind a maze of malicious intent. Late that night, she quietly slipped into the queen's quarters, the light of her single oil lamp barely piercing the gloom. With a malicious grin, she approached a large decorative statue of a mythical creature, which rested on a high ledge directly above Queen Maya's sleeping form. Its heavy base was already unstable. She gave it a final, forceful push, ensuring it would topple. The statue teetered on the brink, its shadow a monstrous, looming shape over the sleeping queen. It began its slow, inevitable descent. Time seemed to stretch, the air thick with the silent promise of a fatal blow, the heavy marble about to deliver its final shattering force. But then, a subtle light pulsed from the queen's body, a gentle, protective warmth that seemed to push back against the darkness. The statue's fall slowed, impossibly, and it settled on the ground just inches from her bed, its fall as silent as a whisper. The queen slept on, completely undisturbed. Pamita stared in wide-eyed frustration, her plan inexplicably foiled. A cold sweat broke out on her brow as she realized her failure was not due to chance, but to an invisible divine force. Her malicious grin vanished, replaced by a look of terrified, simmering rage. She had underestimated the power she was up against. The next morning, as the first golden rays of sun pierced the palace windows, the queen, her face glowing with a serene, almost otherworldly peace, rushed to the king. She recounted the events of her dream with a vivid and breathless wonder, her voice a soft, musical testament to the divine protection she had felt. The king, already marveling at her newfound radiance, listened with a new and overwhelming sense of joy and profound reassurance. He was no longer just a ruler preparing for an heir, but a guardian of a sacred trust, a vessel for a divine destiny. His heart swelled with a protective love that transcended the normal bounds of fatherhood. Filled with this spiritual certainty, he summoned his most esteemed priests and seers, the oldest and wisest men in the kingdom. As they gathered in the throne room, their ancient eyes filled with a patient wisdom, the king asked the queen to retell her miraculous dream. The queen did so, her words weaving a tapestry of light and wonder. When her account was finished, the priests and seers who had listened in stunned silence, their expressions morphing from solemnity to awe, broke into wide, reverent smiles. They bowed low before the king and queen, their voices hushed with reverence as they proclaimed that the queen had indeed conceived a child of supreme spiritual power, a being destined to become either a great king who would unite the world, or a perfectly enlightened being who would lead all of humanity to liberation. The queen's maternal aunt, who had been lurking in a hidden alcove, her body a coiled spring of simmering jealousy, overheard every word. The news did not fill her with fear, but with a new and terrifying desperation. The first attempt had failed, but this prophecy only proved the child's immense power. It was no longer a matter of simple jealousy, but of survival, for a being of such light would surely expose her own darkness. She became even more desperate, her mind a viper's nest of malicious intent. This time she would not trust to chance nor to the whims of fate. She would use the most direct and insidious means possible. She summoned a trusted kitchen servant, a young man who owed her a debt of loyalty, and who now stood before her, his face pale and eyes wide with dread. With a cruel mix of promises of a life of luxury and chilling threats against his family, she ordered him to prepare a bowl of the queen's favorite rice pudding, a dish the queen loved for its sweet, comforting warmth. But this rice pudding, she instructed, was to be laced with a fast-acting poison, one she had meticulously prepared herself. The servant, trapped between two impossible loyalties, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm of fear, delivered the beautiful, sweet-smelling bowl to the queen's private chamber. The queen reached for the bowl, her hand hovering just above the spoon, her eyes gleaming with a gentle anticipation of the familiar, comforting taste. Just as she was about to take a bite, a small, vibrant butterfly with wings of brilliant crimson and gold fluttered down from a nearby potted plant. It was a creature of impossible beauty. It circled the bowl once, a brief flash of living light, and then, without a sound, it landed on the silver spoon, its delicate wings poised for a moment. Then, with a sudden, silent grace, it folded its wings and fell to the ground, a tiny, lifeless speck of dust. The queen, her intuition a guiding light as clear as the Himalayan air, looked from the fallen butterfly to the untouched bowl. She set the bowl aside calmly, her expression unchanged, as if an invisible hand had warned her. From the doorway, the guilt-ridden servant, his face a mask of sickened horror, watched the tiny butterfly, and understood with a sickening clarity that the queen and her unborn child were protected by a force far greater than any earthly power. With 2 attempts on her life mysteriously thwarted, the king's love and protective instincts were now on full display. He organized a massive, highly guarded procession to take Queen Maya to her family's home in Devadaha, as was the custom for birth. The tension of the palace was gone, replaced by the peaceful rhythm of the journey. The roads were lined with people cheering and blessing the radiant queen as she passed. She was not just a monarch, but a symbol of their hope. She smiled and waved, her heart filled with a tranquility that only deepened with each passing day. The journey itself became a serene pilgrimage, a quiet, protective interlude between the conflicts of the palace and the destiny that awaited her. As the procession made its way through the picturesque Lumbini Grove, an oasis of sal trees and vibrant flowers situated between the 2 kingdoms, the queen felt an overwhelming spiritual pull. She quietly signaled for the procession to halt, her eyes fixed on the majestic grove. Without a word, she stepped down from her carriage and walked into the peaceful clearing, her feet taking her directly to a beautiful blossoming sal tree. She reached out and grasped a branch, the unspoken anticipation now at its highest, her gaze fixed on something unseen. As she held the branch, a wave of profound spiritual energy enveloped her. The grove itself seemed to hush, the air growing still and luminous. without a single sound of pain or struggle, with only an expression of serene grace. The queen gave birth. The child, the one destined to be a great king or an enlightened being, was born from her side, an impossible and miraculous event. He was perfectly formed, immaculate, and upon his birth a chorus of celestial beings sang songs of unimaginable beauty, and a gentle rain of flowers fell from the sky. The child stood immediately, taking 7 perfect steps, and with a voice as clear as a bell, he proclaimed, "I alone am the world-honored one." The destiny that awaited her was not one of struggle, but of a quiet, peaceful miracle. The journey of the world-honored one has just begun. To follow the path of the prince and hear more stories of his life, be sure to subscribe.